Hey everyone, and welcome. So if you've been sitting there daydreaming about crystal clear, turquoise Atlantic waters, just endless stretches of pale, warm sand, and that wonderfully unique kind of windswept beauty that you only get in Cape Verde, well, you are in exactly the right place today. We are doing a complete explainer, totally unpacking the RIU Resort experience on these absolutely incredible islands. And we're not just looking at the glossy brochures here. No, we are pulling together everything. We've got official fact sheets, comprehensive travel guides, heavily detailed resort maps, and honestly, most importantly, the actual, unvarnished, real-world guest reviews. The good, the bad, the whole shebang. Our goal today is to give you a really deep, solid foundation of what these resorts actually offer. You know, what they look like and how they physically feel the second you step off that plane. So grab a coffee, get comfortable, and let's just dive right in. Okay, so here's our quick roadmap for today. We're going to start with the Cape Verde contrast. Take a look inside RIU Cabo Verde, check out the dining, drinks, and entertainment, go through those real guest reviews, compare the different RIU resort options, and finally, figure out how to choose your absolute perfect stay.
Section 1. The Cape Verde contrast.
So Sal Island, this is where our main focus today, the RIU Cabo Verde, is located. Now, you really need to understand that this is not your typical, hyper-manicured, perfectly polished tropical island. The geography outside the resort walls is it's strikingly rugged. It's famous for this dry, almost desert-like scenery. You've got these massive, wide, empty spaces, these incredibly sweeping trade winds coming off the ocean, and these historic salt flats. It feels beautifully untamed, right? Like you were deeply connected to this raw nature. But, and this is a big but, the very second you step onto the RIU property, that entire mood just flips. You literally transition from this harsh, bright, rugged desert into this incredibly lush, totally relaxed, highly structured, all-inclusive bubble. It's actually brilliant. The resort acts as this giant protective oasis against that breezy Atlantic coast, basically creating its own completely sheltered microclimate of pure comfort. And you really see that oasis vibe here. Just look at the way the day flows. Because that Atlantic coast is so famously breezy, which, side note, makes it an absolute literal paradise if you're into windsurfing or kiteboarding, the architecture of the resort naturally funnels your whole day down toward these protected, sunken pool areas. You've got the swim-up bars, these massive, expansive shaded canopies, perfectly placed palm trees just swaying in that ocean breeze. It's so relaxed. Your day starts super slow, maybe you grab a generous breakfast out in the morning sun, and then, almost without thinking, you just naturally drift toward the calm waters and these incredibly comfortable loungers. It's like an immediate, highly accessible sanctuary right there, completely shielding you from the wilder nature of Sal Island that's waiting just a few steps away.
Section 2. Inside RIU Cabo Verde. Okay, so to really grasp what it's actually like to stay here, we've got to talk about the scale and the intention of this place. First off, it's an adults-only property, sitting right around 500 rooms, with this absolutely prime oceanfront positioning in Santa Maria. But the thing our sources just keep emphasizing over and over is the layout. It's all about broad pathways, super bright, wide-open public spaces. The rooms aren't trying to be ultra-sleek, minimalist, modern art galleries, They're spaces built for practical, comfortable holiday living. They give you plenty of space, really strong AC to beat that afternoon heat, fully stocked minibars, and tons of storage for your luggage. Essentially, this property completely trades ultra-private, tucked-away boutique isolation for just easy breezy holiday living and absolute convenience. I mean, you never have to hike a mile across the resort just to get your morning coffee. The pool, the bar, the beach, and your room, they are all intimately connected and so incredibly easy to navigate.
And because of that layout, the social atmosphere here is it's palpable. Let's be real, this is not one of those silent, hushed wellness retreats where everyone whispers over herbal tea. Not at all. There is a lively, really energetic rhythm pulsing through the hallways and the common areas. It is purposely built for couples, for solo travelers, and for groups of friends who are actually looking for a highly social vibe. People are always mingling, the bartenders are super engaging, and you'll constantly see spontaneous conversations just sparking up over evening cocktails. That vibrant, super welcoming energy, that is the absolute core pulse of this property. Which brings us to this observation from our travel analysts, and honestly, they hit the nail right on the head. They call it a large, energetic, sun-focused resort built for travelers who want beach time and a lively holiday rhythm. And the sheer beauty of this specific setup is that you don't need to stress out over planning your days. You definitely don't need some rigid spreadsheet itinerary. The resort literally provides the complete framework for your vacation. You just show up, You unpack your bags, and you let that lively holiday rhythm carry you along effortlessly from sunrise straight through to sunset.
Section 3. Dining, drinks, and entertainment. All right, let's talk about the food, because the culinary ecosystem here is huge. The focus is firmly 100% planted on massive variety and casual, all-inclusive abundance. If you're looking for tiny, rigid, overly formal fine dining portions, this isn't it. Instead, you've got the promenade, which is your main, massive, globe-trotting buffet. But then, to keep things fresh, you also have 3 very distinct a la carte spots. There's Crystal, if you want to indulge in some beautifully crafted fusion and gourmet dishes. There's Sophia, for those evenings when you're just craving comforting, authentic Italian. And then the Santa Maria Steakhouse for your heavy grill classics. Throw in 6 totally different bars, thoughtfully scattered across the lobby, the pools, and the beach, and you've got a setup perfectly designed to cater to absolutely whatever weird craving strikes you at any given moment.
The flexibility really is incredible, whether you want to sit down for a massive multi-course meal, or maybe you just want to grab a quick, strong espresso and a fresh pastry at the lobby patisserie before hitting the sand. You can absolutely do that. Interestingly, when we really dug into translated guest reviews on platforms like Wanderlog, travelers specifically praised the overall food quality. They rave about the incredible fresh local fish available every single day. And here's a fun recurring favorite detail. Guests love the readily available chilled Prosecco waiting at the hotel bars. I mean, nothing elevates that carefree vacation feeling quite like bubbles on tap, right? But what happens when the sun finally goes down? Well, a lot of tropical resorts kind of just fade out into a sleepy, quiet silence right after dinner, around 8 p.m. Not the RIU Cabo Verde. This place completely shifts gears. Our sources highlight an honestly impressive array of live dance shows, fantastic live music acts, and these incredibly vibrant themed neon parties that keep the energy totally buzzing. Plus, guests get shared access to the Pacha nightclub right at the sister property next door. So for travelers who actually want to dance, mingle, and just experience a much fuller, more dynamic rhythm to their week, without the massive hassle of having to hail a taxi into some distant town, having all this nightlife right on site is a massive, massive advantage.
Section 4. Guest reviews and realities. To really get the full picture, we've got to look at the unvarnished realities, the absolute highs and the frustrating lows, pulled directly from translated guest reviews. Let's start with this incredibly specific and honestly very reassuring anecdote from a guest named Jessica. She wrote, "I even saw someone in a white coat inspecting the cleanliness of the bars and restaurants, which put me at ease." Now think about it. In a massive, high-volume, all-inclusive resort serving literally hundreds of people every single day, seeing that kind of rigorous, highly visible quality control, that has a huge, tangible impact on your peace of mind as a guest. It clearly shows that hygiene isn't just an afterthought, it's a top-tier priority.
And actually, that meticulous attention to detail goes way beyond just making sure the kitchens are spotless. When we look at the official RIU fact sheets, those white coat inspections are just one piece of a much broader, systemic approach to eco-friendly practices. We're talking low-energy lighting everywhere, really smart eco-friendly towel change policies, actively working to minimize daily waste by cutting way down on single-portion packets at those massive buffets, and implementing water-saving flushes across the entire property. It's solid proof that large-scale, all-inclusive luxury can, in fact, be balanced beautifully with responsible sustainability. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Of course, no property on Earth is totally immune to issues, and to be completely fair, we have to impartially report the negatives too. Another translated Wanderlog review detailed a pretty severe issue during a sudden bout of bad weather. The guest said, "We had some heavy rain overnight and the water was pouring in through the ceiling of the toilet, through the light." Yikes, right? Now, the reviewer was totally fair and made a point to note that the staff was highly responsive the very next day, and that RIU management proactively followed up with calls and emails to check in. But look, regardless of how excellent that customer service recovery was, having a roof leak pour water directly through a light fixture is a major, undeniable disruption to a luxury holiday. There's just no way around that. So, weighing those unvarnished realities, the pros are honestly incredibly strong. You've got amazing food, beautifully prepared fresh local fish, genuinely friendly and attentive staff, and that fantastic evening entertainment. But the cons are definitely there too. For instance, the in-room Wi-Fi is frequently described by guests as, well, terrible. If you're planning on sneaking in some remote work, that could be a huge deal breaker. But the absolute most universally cited frustration is what we're going to call the towel brigade. Guests consistently report that people will run down to reserve the absolute best sunbeds with towels extremely early in the morning. We're talking before the sun is even fully up. And then they just abandon them for massive chunks of the day. And this behavior basically goes totally unpoliced by the resort staff. It causes a ton of understandable frustration for guests who just want to casually stroll down mid-morning to find a seat by the pool. A lot of times, it just drives people away from the pool entirely and down to the beach instead. Section 5. Comparing RIU resort options. Okay, let's zoom out a bit. Looking at the broader islands, it is so fascinating how distinctly RIU has segmented its different properties to cater to totally different vacation styles. Let's walk through this matrix really quickly. You've got the RIU Cabo Verde on Sal, which, as we know intimately by now, is adults only, lively, and focused on nightlife. But right next door, also on Sal, is the RIU Palace Santa Maria. This one flips the script. It's heavily family-focused, welcomes all ages, and actually features a massive splash water world park for the kids. Then, if you decide to hop over to the neighboring island of Boa Vista, you've got the RIU Palace Boa Vista, offering a much more tranquil, upgraded 24-hour luxury experience that's all about pure relaxation. And finally, also on Boa Vista, is the RIU Tuareg. This one is highly secluded, beautifully quiet, and leans really heavily into unique desert excursions and exploring those untouched surrounding dunes. The daily reality of your vacation will look and feel vastly different depending on which one you choose. On one hand, you have the bustling, highly social energy of a crowded lobby bar at Cabo Verde, where the music is pumping and the drinks are flowing. On the other hand, you have the absolute serene wellness and total quiet of the Renova Spa. Now, while the spa is technically available across the properties, this deep level of tranquility is what perfectly reflects the core vibe of a place like the Palace Boa Vista or the Tuareg. The overarching brand on the sign outside might be exactly the same, but the rhythm of your Tuesday morning or your Friday night, totally, completely distinct. And speaking of that palace tier, just look at the striking, incredibly elegant 5-star lobby of the RIU Palace Boa Vista. According to the Casa DCV travel guides, the resorts carrying that palace designation offer a noticeably upgraded premium 24-hour luxury experience over the standard RIU properties. The architecture is just a bit more dramatic and visually striking, the dining options are slightly more elevated and refined, and the overall atmosphere makes this massive shift from an energetic holiday to a much deeper state of refined tranquility. It's a very different flavor of vacation. Section 6. Choosing your perfect stay. So how do you actually navigate all of this and make sure you book the trip of a lifetime? It really boils down to 3 key steps. Step 1, determine your ideal vibe. Are you looking to completely escape kids for a week of adults-only cocktails, or are you bringing the whole family along? Honestly, answering that one question instantly halves your options. Step 2, clearly weigh the importance of amenities to you. If you need vibrant nightlife, late-night dancing, and high social energy, Cabo Verde is your spot. If you or your kids need the absolute thrill of a water park, it literally has to be Santa Maria. Step 3, choose your island environment. Sal is world famous for its highly accessible beaches and the really charming, vibrant nearby town of Santa Maria, while Boa Vista offers a much more rugged, secluded experience, featuring those spectacular, rolling desert dunes. The absolute most crucial takeaway from everything we've explored today is this: there is no single objective best resort. There is only the resort that is perfectly tailored to your highly specific needs. We've explored the windswept beauty of Sal Island. We've walked the lively, food-filled corridors of RIU Cabo Verde. We've dug into the unvarnished realities of the guest experience, and we've seen the stark contrasts between sister properties. Now, the final piece of the puzzle is completely up to you. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Which RIU resort truly matches your Cape Verde travel style?